So I'm here with William Wright, and this is our first episode of the currently unnamed series that I'm doing. We're here to talk about your music and Salt Mass, which is inspired by Hookland or part of Hookland. Tell us a bit about it.
Well, yeah, I think David would say all the pieces are connected. So I feel like really it's the same, when I write any music, I get this sort of vivid visual. It's always a pretty visual experience for me, even if there's no visual involved. And I've rarely experienced that outside of my own ideas as much as I did when I discovered Hookland. And yeah, and as soon as I saw it the first time and saw this sort of preamble about the ghost soil, I was just I had a head stuffed with musical ideas that, and then the further I went into it, and then eventually connecting with David, and he sent me a big packet of stuff. I couldn't get away from it. And so I think it's a part of it. I think it is inspired by it. It feels, the two, I have an impossible time separating the two now,
Yeah, I mean, the way I see it is that it's like tendrils that sort of interlock, and these fine filaments that sort of touch each other and become one. And the way I sort of approached listening to your music was, I thought, right, I'm just going to, when it was first released, and I bought the downloads, and I just sort of went into our room, closed the doors, put my headphones on, turned the lights off, because music is an auditory thing, but it is also a visual thing for me as well, as you say. And I just closed my eyes and I just listened. I thought what might be fun is I basically went through my notes and then we can just talk about each track. Yeah
I'd love that. That's perfect.
Okay, so we'll start with the Black Windmill, and it starts off dark and brooding, and it feels like it starts at night, and as it goes through, it feels like it's sort of coming through to almost that time just before dawn, when there's just that mist, and particularly here, and the way I saw it was that part just before dawn as it comes over the sea, and here there'll be the mist is sort of coming in, and dawn hasn't broken yet, and it gets to that point where the piano starts to come into the music, and it sort of lightens up and lifts up a little bit, and you can feel the dawn starting to poke its head up, and it's starting to get a little bit less brooding, but almost more foreboding. It's there, and it says, "I'm coming," but you don't know exactly what's coming, and I feel like it sort of leaves you at that point where we're just about to hit the dawn, and what is it going to bring? Does that make sense?
Absolutely, yeah. And to me, because Hookland, and I feel like all the residual exercises with Hookland, it has to be about setting, and it has to be about it is, and that's the thing I love so much about it. And so this opening of Salt Mass to me is the most important. That's the most important moment to me, because everything setting this. The whole show is the stage, so it's about setting the appropriate stage, and I wanted it. There is a foreboding spirit to it, because to me that is the sound of the land. Watching these people wake up and go to bed and wake up and go to bed. And, you know, the land has seen people born and die and born and die and born and die, you know, born, struggle, die. And the windmill to me is sort of the totem, you know, it almost comes up out of the ground, and it's this thing that has watched this town cycle after cycle after cycle, you know, and almost like a silent narrator, you know.
Yeah.
And so to me, that's, you know, that's the sense of it. You know, it is, you know, and so much of it, you know, the long tones to me interface with the, you know, the hum, you know, and this like space between the light and the dark, you know, where all of these things watch the people, and they're like tiny, what feels important, you know, to them as it like comes and goes, is like the water, you know, and to me, so that to me was track 1.
So onto track 2, and Stella Maris. Again, when I heard this, didn't know the name. So this is what came. These were the notes that I sort of, and remember, this is what I wrote straight down as soon as, and these were my feelings. The sun comes up, breathing life into the day. The gulls and the swifts and other seabirds flying over the sea as it brightens up. They're dipping and diving. It's that early morning, and they're first out. There's no human being there, and looking down is the other side, the other place. And the birds are aware of it, but they don't care. And as I said, they're dipping and diving onto the sea. And then all of a sudden, and right in the middle of the music, all of a sudden, the glory of it all sort of rises. But there's something there again in the background, something's coming. And there's something watching. And it's not judgmental. I wouldn't say it's a judgmental watching, but it's that creepy foreboding. And there's this wonderful juxtaposition in this song of, as I said, the glory and majesty of everything that's sort of coming together. But there's that undercurrent that's sort of, it's like it's just below the surface there, bubbling away, watching, thinking, seeing. And I kind of saw the track almost as a metaphor. Sorry, every track in this EP or as almost a metaphor for the beginning of the day right to the end of the day, but also the beginning of life right to the end of life. You know, and as I said in this second one, you know, the day is just starting, but maybe almost like, and I don't want to say death, but a dark angel or something is there, and the birds and things know he's there, and he's not there for them, and they're almost just performing in spite of him. But there's that. It's just that beautiful juxtaposition in this song, and I just thought it was beautiful, absolutely beautiful.
No, that's perfect, and I love that you hear a cycle in it. You know, of course, it's supposed to be a kind of a, you know, this multi-layered cycle that's not just a morning to night, and not just a light to dark, and not just a birth to death, you know, but a day cycle. And I mean, like a day cycle that applies to more, you know. Yeah, you because it's so much big, like you say, death is such a common thing, you know, like death is common, and it's not the worst thing, you know. And there's like, to me, this song, of course, based on, you know, like off the title, you know, this is even further up to me than the lighthouse. So you have kind of a second vantage point, even further. And this is the, you know, this is the spirit, you know, the spirit that means to watch over the people who live in this town, who has seen enough cycles to know that you can't help everybody, and so there's this kind of, there's an urgency to it because the cycle has started, and that's why it kicks in, because once the ball starts rolling down the hill, everything's finite, and so these, this secondary place and these secondary beings that have some sway over the town and over, are on the clock now, and so it is beautiful. It's about the, it's sort of defiantly there's an optimism to it, but also an awareness, of the way things go.
Yeah, absolutely. So moving on to the third track, The Blessing of the Boats. This is my wife's favourite one. She thought this was absolutely gorgeous. And these are my notes. Bobbing and bouncing, the ancient fishermen and sailors are out at sea. They're coming in from their early morning run. The sun is fully risen. They're tired and worn, these hardened sea dogs, with grins of happiness in their hearts. See, it's time to return to their home. Their job is done. But with that comes and with that comes the hope of another day, the hope of another catch, but also the worry of the loss of life that is to come, that inevitably will come to those who challenge the sea at night. And that were my thoughts. Yeah,
this is the that is really beautiful, and I love that you without any titles or anything could see things so close to the heart of these pieces. That to me is the most validating thing in the world, especially to write, instrumental, like neoclassical music, to have the point come across feels like a miracle, but and to me, this is it's a big day, and you have to me, this is sort of in the grand cycle of things here. You have sort of a coming of age and a changing of the guard, and now it's time for young optimistic fishermen to take their turn, and and it feels exciting, and it's exciting and it's optimistic, and there's this in my head, there's this parade sort of about to happen, and this in spite of the fact that everyone knows that it is a horrible, it's a hard job and so scary that there's no way to head into it except with some hope, a level of hope, and there's these are there's a sort of a springtime to it, and this is this is it. This is it, like so many of the so many life cycles. The changing of the guard is this is the last bright light. Before you really dig into what you have to do and what may happen.
Now the next one, Swans Coming Ashore. Unfortunately, I'd seen the name of this one. So this one, but in saying that, when I listened to it, I couldn't believe how well it actually paired with the name. And so here are the notes that sort of came to me. Wings outstretched, the sun is high, and the 2 by 2 they come in, each pair in love and together forever, gracefully landing in their respective ponds and rivers. They dive for fresh fish that they spy below. They come back together as if never been apart, as elegant and beautiful as ever, their long necks held aloft, and they swim gently and contented together, centered, always hoping always wanting, but they understand that their time is near. Together they came, together they'll go. And
that is very beautiful. It is, yeah, and much sweeter than my image of the song. This is the one that kills me even now, and this is the one that gets some play here on our local NPR. But to me, the song, the hemispheres of this song, it begins with the wives of Spitstone waiting, and of course it's centered around the legend of the Spitstone swans, the souls of the fishermen that come home in the form of the swans. And so the first half of this song to me is the wives waiting, and then this, when it takes the turn into the piano at the middle, the streets flood and the swans come home, and it's not a story about death, and like the whole thing is, it's not a story about death at all. It's a story about coming home. You know, like it doesn't, like life and death are small compared to coming home. And the image, because they talk about the constant flooding of this town in the guide, and the image of the streets flooding and kind of delivering the news to me is so, I can't shake it. It's the principal image for this collection of music in my head. Like that, the moment crosses my mind like at random times of the day, and have to take pause.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's beautiful. It's a really lovely song. It's probably my second favorite. My favorite is the last song.
Oh, yeah.
But that story is quite profound and longing, and it's beautifully, I find beautifully gruesome in so many ways. So I can absolutely see why that has that effect on you.
Yeah, because it's not really a matter of, to me, again, everyone, whether it's the lighthouse or the stars or the wives or the fishermen, everyone knows that it's not about if, that it's about when. And so
exactly.
I imagine every single trip out to sea that these ladies have had to go out and see if they get back a husband or a swan, and so every time the streets flood, there's like a possibility that it's their turn, and so it's, to me, and there's like the beauty of facing it, that's, to me, it's like that fuels the song entirely, because just like in real life, it isn't a matter of if. Yeah. It's a matter of when.
Yeah, exactly.
To me, that's the song. That's the song that I feel like I'll hold that one with me forever. I feel like that, to me, that the turn in the middle of that song is the defining moment of this record for me.
So on to the last, which I think is, as I said, I think my favorite. So this is the bookend. This is the night. This is, we're now at the end of the day, and twilight has returned. The darkness is closing in, drop by drop, tendril by tendril. The darkness takes over the light, but something magical is happening. Is it the Fae? Is it the elves? Is it something else? A glow of magical light as the creatures slowly dance in the growing pale moonlight. Twirling dresses, flowing spinning. A shrill chorus grows to a crescendo, all calling to the darkness as the center stage is taken, twirling in happiness. And they go to speak, and that ends. And you never know what it is that they're going to say or what it was about. And it felt like a beautiful, longing ending. And it just sort of ended for me like that awful but beautiful question, that cliffhanger, that beauty of it all. And then when I saw the name, and I thought, yeah, I can kind of see where you got the name for that. But that was my thoughts of it all.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of well, where we started with our, sort of omnipresence, kind of watching it all, watching it animate and reanimate and go through these cycles. And time, of course, moves much differently for the landscape, And so this is sort of the end here is the intersection, and it sort of represents the frustration of the people, the chess pieces coming to terms with the fact that it is the bookends are set, and like with the wedding of the Fathom brides, the sacrifices that we make to extend the clock or to extend the day, even though the night is appointed, the river is fixed, and so to me, yeah, there's all of the pieces that we've crossed through here sort of intersect at the end, and the trying and the frustration and the inevitability and the light and the darkness and the darkness choking out the light, and it all kind of closes together at the end, and that melody, that main melody, and how it, to me, yeah, and that's the place, in the end, all those pieces run themselves to sleep, and the landscape's still watching,
Yeah. It never stops.
Yeah, never stops. And it's beautiful and terrible and inevitable, and then it starts again.
Yeah. So I have to say that the EP has just been quite profound for me, and it's something that I've found within my own sphere, my own writing, and thinking about what it is that I'm creating. Quite often I'll just put it on and just listen. I just want to say thank you for making this, because it is just beautiful.
Well, I again, just like earlier when you were describing things, and I said the fact that you could find your way through it without even the song titles, to me is it's the only true success, I feel like, is, again, you were talking about, like with Hookland, these sort of filaments reaching out and touching each other, like it keeps going, and it passes from that to me, and then both of those things pass to you, and your work will pass to somebody else. And beyond that, the fact that it extends beyond context. So you don't just turn it on and there's the lighthouse and there's the stars and there's the parade. You turn it on and you and the music go somewhere else together. And to me, that gives it a sort of life after context, which I think is life beyond context. I feel like that's one of the major lessons of Hookland. It's the context is your business, and it is I want this music to exist as a space becomes what you need it to be, and what the people that listen to it, it goes with you, it'll go with you wherever you want to go, and it'll assume whatever role works.
Yeah. It
just like
certainly
Hookland,
does that. Yeah. So what's next for you?
Well, I am, we're hoping to show the full, in the springtime, we want to do the first ever full live performance of Salt Mass, somewhere here in the U.S. with the string quartet and the harp and the visual and and everything. And so
Wow.
that's the next thing for the piece. For me, right now I'm writing a score for a stage production of Wait Until Dark. I guess it was most famous when it was the 1960s version with Audrey Hepburn, but it was originally about the blind woman being sort of pursued by men. She's accidentally come into the possession of some heroin, and these men are trying to figure out a way to get it out of her house. And it's a very intense score, but I'm really enjoying it so far. I'm trying to write it in sort of a blown out way. They say that when you lose your sight, all of your other senses kind of rise to the. So I'm trying to write it in a way that illustrates that, and so I'm working on that. I'm working on some commission pieces for some choirs, and it's almost football season in America, like American football season, and so I had a summer full of high concept neoclassical music, and I'm excited to just scream at my television.
Well,
it's my
Well, it's been amazing speaking to you, and it's just again, I said earlier, I'm sorry it took us so long to connect, but I'll have links for people who want to and should buy this. Absolutely should, but if you can't afford it, then I guess you can go and listen on Spotify. That's
the most important. Yeah.
But it's great value for money, and it's beautiful, and it gets my seal of approval for whatever that's worth.
Worth everything to me. I want people to get something out of it, and the things that you read me today, if that was the end of your experience with it, then I feel like a total success, because those thoughts, to be any part of those beautiful thoughts and that beautiful stories is all you can't. It's the only legacy that matters to me. So,
well, thank you very much. I'm glad you enjoyed my sort of thoughts on it, and you
have a great for storytelling, and I
thank you.
Yeah, I'm glad to be a part of it.
Thank you so much. That's a wonderful compliment. Really is. Thank you. And we'll talk soon.
I hope so.